Ladies and gentlemen, the 7-day grace period is going to end in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. This was the longest week ever. Oh my god, you have no idea how long I've been looking forward to this day. Welcome to the Avengers Infinity War review here on the Game Changer. I am Nate the Effing Great, and I'm being joined here by my lovely co-host, the Angelina Jolie, to my James McAvoy. Yes, that's a Wanted reference. Let's see how many people pick that up. That is indeed VicTori Belle.
Stoked too. I saw the movie again last night just to be ready.
Yeah, so we both have seen it twice. We both have a good idea on the positives, some of the negatives, but also some of the criticisms that this movie has gotten. As it stands right now, for when we're recording this, it has raked in a lot of dough. It's gotten $808.4 million in the box office. It has gotten 84% on the Rotten Tomatoes with a 92% approval score by the audiences, and it has broken so many different records worldwide. This is a movie that is not to be taken lightly at all. Just, oh my god, from beginning to end, absolutely phenomenal. I can't even think of the right words to even give this movie any justice.
Well, yeah, I was very satisfied with the movie. I mean, we had the cast right before it, just kind of asking what we wanted, and I mean, I just know I said I wanted death, I wanted new character kind of reveals, and then I also I forget the last one I said. I think I wanted everyone's power to like really shine. Like I wanted people to like actually show that they're really cool and good. And I got all that. And I was very satisfied. Two of my like star characters that came out of this was my man Thor and Scarlet Witch finally showed that she's a badass, because she is. Stop sitting her on the sideline. Oh my god, just like, what is the sergeant of Wakanda? I forget what her name is.
Oh god. I know who you're talking about. I'm trying to remember her name.
Yeah, I think everybody knows one of the Spear Warriors, the main, like, the head girl. When Wanda comes out and like just like lifts all those gears and like throws them to the side, she's like, "Why was she up there? Why was this bitch up there?" And that's like everyone's, I think, exact reaction of why has she not been fighting? Like, why are they always like, "No, Scarlet Witch, stay over there, be careful, hide, Scarlet Witch, hide." Like this bitch is crazy. Let her be crazy.
I also did feel like I got everything I wanted to, because I think if I remember correctly, I had the friction between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, more character development, and of course the impending deal, which means Thanos got the upper hand, and we'll get more into that when we talk more about this. So, honestly,
romance too. Like I was so proud of that.
You know, that was actually one of the things that really surprised me. They did an absolutely amazing job with the romance between Scarlet Witch and Vision. Honestly, they were the ones that I was kind of rooting for, because you did felt like the genuine relationship just grow ever since Civil War. And it got to the point where you definitely could tell that these two were inseparable. So to see what ends up happening definitely really puts a wrench in your heart, where it's just like, no, I knew this was going to happen, but I don't want it to happen.
Right. I was also thinking that obviously the Scarlet Witch and Vision is what I personally wanted, just knowing their relationship throughout the comics. Like, you're like, okay, finally we got to see that they did have a relationship. I'm okay that we didn't get to see, the beginning stages, really. They kind of just threw us in there, like, they live together now. And you're like, oh, okay, fine, I'll take it. But also, like, Star-Lord and Gamora really had some good moments. Even like what you were talking about, I think you said a little bit about Bruce Banner and Black Widow had like awkward moments, which was good.
That was one of the few minor things I had issue with the film, and that was just the awkwardness that was there. I mean, Falcon definitely summed it up, just by saying, this is awkward. I felt the same way, where it was like, you guys haven't seen each other for years, so, like, no genuine, like, not even like a hug or something like that, because they know, everybody in the Avengers, they knew that there was something going on between the two of them, and yeah, it just felt like, just a stare was just good enough. It's like, what? And then they just move on to the next scene. I'm like, okay then. That was, I think, the only minor thing where it was like, this is just weird, but then again, I don't know the actual, depth of how much the relationship is between Black Widow and Bruce Banner, so I should not really fully judge on that. But yeah, you mentioned Gamora and Star-Lord. That was one of those moments that, for me, I was just like, yes, I'm just so happy right now. This movie's the best. I don't care about anything else. And then, of course, 2 seconds later, we have Drax just kill the moment where he's just standing in like a random corner, just eating like a snack. Just amazing. And this was actually one thing that a friend of mine, Evan, commented on. He said that there was a lot too much humor in this movie, and that was one of those moments he definitely cited where he's like, there's a great moment between Gamora and Star-Lord, and it's ruined by Drax. I can defend that because Drax is the only one that you could really see just ruining any kind of feel-good moment. I mean, it definitely showed in I think it was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where he talks about how, he doesn't like to dance, he doesn't like to have that much fun. He's just one of those guys who, can just be almost like a buzzkill, but still be a likable character. And that was just one of those moments that I looked at and I thought, you know what, I couldn't see anybody else doing that besides Drax. And the way that he presented himself, where he's just like, oh, I've been standing here for an hour. I'm just really good at, standing still. And, of course, they're just like, no, you're not. He's trying to just, like, slowly just eat a snack. He's like, I'm totally invisible. And then, of course, here comes Mantis. Oh, hi, Drax. Damn it.
Yeah. To comment on the comment of the comedy within the film, I actually, because, I did not like Ragnarok's comedy. I thought Ragnarok was inappropriately humorous. Like, I thought it was a good movie.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, I think pretty sure I thought for what Ragnarok is, everything was a little too light. I think they did this one correctly. I think they started dark as F without, like, hardly any comedy. Like, I think that was where, like, you gotta start the movie with the tone of how serious this movie is. And, like, they did. And I think because of all the different movies that they had to kind of, like, integrate together, I think they did a really good job of showing where the comedy needed to be and where the comedy didn't need to be. Like, you knew right when it was going to space, the music changed. Everything changed. Like, you're like, oh, here comes the Guardians of the Galaxies. This is gonna be funny. Like, the Rubber Band Man song, they're like, here comes the Rubber Band, and everybody's kind of, like, singing it and everything. Like, that was so appropriate, because that is them. That is their characterizations. Every funny thing that happens within the Guardians of the Galaxy scenes are true to the characters. Like, as you just said, it's Drax. Like, he does not understand awkward. Like, his race, everything literally goes over their heads. So for him to just be there, like, I'm just going to watch them at this moment, is so appropriate. So, like, it's so awkward, but it's like, dude, like, that's what he does. So, I don't know if I don't think there was ever a moment that I was like, wow, like, that shouldn't have been said. Because Spider-Man had a few humorous things. You know, Doctor Strange and obviously Tony Stark had great chemistry together. Not really humorous, but more mean that people laughed at. Then obviously, like I said, Guardians of the Galaxy, all their scenes had some humor in it. Like, I know one of my friends could not stop laughing when Tony Stark was trying to ask them, like, what do you guys even do? And, like, Mantis is like, we kick names, take ass. And, like, Drax was like, yeah. And then, like, just, like, there was a good, like, 3 seconds of just showing Tony Stark's face. Like, oh, my God. And, like, no sound. And, like, my friend was, like, cracking up, and I was, like, looking at her, like, shh. She's like, that is so funny. I was like, you're right. He definitely just, in his mind, was going over how dumb they are. but yeah, little things like that, like, they aren't being funny, in quotes. That's how they are. Like, and your reaction is the same as Tony Stark's reaction to it. Like, we're screwed.
You know, and the funny thing is that it was the exact opposite from when I saw it the second time. When that moment happened, when that moment where you see just Tony Stark and Peter Parker just looking at them with that awkward stare, like, immediately the audience just started howling with laughter, and it was just absolutely funny. And like you said, it was just that moment where it was just like, well, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we got to work with. And one of my favorite scenes in that movie was the, as you mentioned, the exchange between Doctor Strange and Tony Stark. Like you said, it's one of those things where it's kind of like serious funny, where, you know, they're trying to be serious to each other, but somehow you can't help but kind of leave a smile or, you know, kind of laugh at this, where they have the exchange and they talk about Peter. Doctor Strange just says, what is he, your ward? And then about, I think it was maybe a couple seconds later, where Peter Parker just comes up to him. He's like, oh, hey, I'm Peter. And Doctor Strange goes, Doctor Strange. Oh, we're using made-up names. I'm Spider-Man. I'm like...
Yeah. And again, like, it's not, like, meant to be comedy. That's how that character is. We laugh because we know the character and, like, the awkwardness in him. Like, he's a kid. Like, he's a teenager. And he's in this situation that he should not be in. And he's, like, overwhelmed. So he's like, oh, Spider-Man. I meant Spider-Man. We all feel the comedy, and that's what you were talking about, Benjamin Cumberbatch and Robert Downey Jr., like, interacting the way they did, is both of their characters just being arrogant, egotistical bastards. And they both have to just deal with each other. And, like, each one are like, oh my God, this guy's so arrogant. Like, both of them, you know, they're both feeling how, like, wow, this guy's head can't get any bigger. And they both are the exact same way in that course, though. That's why it's so enjoyable for us as an audience to see them have a mirror held up to them and be, like, struggling with it. Like, this guy is, I can't even stand him. I can't handle this guy. He's ridiculous. And both of them are like, he doesn't bend. He doesn't do what I'm saying. He doesn't even thank me. Like, both of them just are going back and forth about that, and it's really cool. And kind of like we were just saying about the comedy, you know who didn't have a lot of comedy and who shouldn't have had any comedy is Thor himself. Like, there was comedy around him, but this time he didn't do any of those, like, Thor Ragnarok quirky things. Like, he was Thor, and Thor is Thor. He's genuinely that smug about things. Like, okay, let me go open up the star. And, like, obviously people around him are like, no, like, that is the power of the star. I said it's going to kill you. He's like, right, but if I don't die, this will happen. He's like, no, like, no, it's going to kill you. like Peter Dinklage's character being like, no, that is what dying is. That is dying. And, like, he just doesn't care because he's Thor. He's like, I'm a god, I'm all powerful. And, like, when he's talking to the Guardians of the Galaxy, like, he's not making jokes. He's just doing his Thor thing of, like, all right, good luck, morons, bye. Good luck, morons. Like, he thought that's what they were called. Because Rocket and all them were like, yeah, those are the morons. Let me take you. Those are the morons. Like, his situation was ridiculously sad. So I'm glad he got his moments of not having comedy. Being around comedy, because he was around the Guardians of the Galaxy. But it was really sad.
It kind of almost reminds you of, like, the first time you see Thor in the original Thor movie, where he's just not used to a lot of things. He thinks he knows certain things, but, you know, just because of the fact that he's so absent from technology, it just makes it that much funnier. He's just, you know, oblivious to it. So that's probably one of the reasons why he's such a great, you know, character, even though he doesn't have to be funny. And like you said, they did a really good job of balancing the comedy as well as the serious moments in this movie. I didn't think, like you said, there was a moment where it was like, you know, this comedy moment shouldn't have been here, or, oh man, they went too far when they made this joke and blah, 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 blah. No, it was one of those things where, you know, they balanced it, and I think that what makes, you know, Marvel and DC so different is that I think with DC, they try to make it a little bit more organic. Like, it's a situation where, you know, it happens and it's funny because it's happening in that moment. Whereas Marvel, they're trying to more, you know, focus on some of the punchlines, but they also realize, okay, this is not the time for the punchlines. Let's focus on this. Okay, punchline, punchline, punchline. Stuff like that. Like, you definitely notice that they are trying to be comedic, but they also want it to be, like, you know, really good timing on it. Whereas, like I said, with DC, it's kind of organic, or it's because of the situation that makes it funny.
Yeah, I could see that. But no, 100%. I don't think Infinity Wars was over comedic. I think it needed the pieces that it had, because otherwise the audience in general, the Marvel audience, would not be able to sit through this movie the way they did.
No, you're definitely right about that. Let's go into the search for all of the Infinity Stones. So obviously, we definitely knew where a lot of these Infinity Stones were. Some were in space, one was with the Collector, two were on Earth. They definitely did a great job of, you know, saying, like, okay, this is where this one is, this is where this one is. The only one we did not know was the Soul Stone. A lot of people were thinking, like, oh, well, it's probably on Earth with, you know, the Black Panther. But then we get a moment where literally I looked over at so many people and they revealed where the Soul Stone was located, and people were just like, really? Whoa. Okay. Did not see that coming. It was kind of one of those moments where it's like, oh, well, I didn't expect it to be on a different planet. And then when we get to that scene, we get quite a bit of a surprise, actually, because who is going to be the keeper of the Soul Stone, and that being Red Skull.
Yeah.
I literally, my jaw literally hit the ground, like, I don't even fully understand this character, but I know who that is. How the hell is he still alive?
Yeah, I haven't watched Captain America, the first Avenger, in a long time. So when I saw him, I was like, was he trying to get the Soul Stone? Was he trying to get an Infinity Stone? And I just, like, totally spaced. And I guess he was. I still haven't watched it since I watched Infinity Wars, but I guess he was attempting to gain, like, this ultimate power, and so that could have definitely been one of the Infinity Stones. And I was like, that was a great tie-in. And one of my friends, like I said, that I went with, really kind of summed up a lot of the Marvel movies for me. She's like, you know what? It's really hard for me to go see other movies after seeing Marvel movies because they try so hard. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? She's like, I mean, like, throwing that in there, like, throwing this villain from, like, the original first Avengers movie, Because, like, Iron Man and Thor and all those, when they came out, they weren't correlated with the Avengers at all. Captain America was the only one who's, like, literally had Avengers in the name, and you all knew, like, once Captain America came, the Avengers is performing. She's like, that first movie to have something and pull that back in that worked. Like, she's like, all of these movies were, like, leading up to this movie, and, like, you felt, like, little pulls from each movie. She's like, it just was so thought out. Like, they try so hard to make a good movie. She's like, it's hard to watch anything else because you just think everybody else is lazy. And I'm like, you know what? I agree in that sense. Like, I sometimes watch other movies and I'm like, I mean, it was good. But, like, yeah, they didn't have those, like, the twist or the turn or the reveal that, like you know, that the end of Marvel movies get. Like, it's just very interesting. I really enjoyed her feedback on that.
It is really amazing how they can try so hard to not only, you know, continue the story that they're creating there, but also try to incorporate things that have happened in the past. Of course, you know, they bring in the Wakanda storyline. They bring in the fact that, you know, the Collector from Guardians of the Galaxy. They bring in all these things that made sense to this point, to which some people saw, but then there's some people like, oh, that's right, we had this person, we had this going on. Just for them to do that, yeah, they do try really hard to incorporate that, but at least there's a reason behind it. I think that's what makes these Marvel movies so good. It's not just one of those things where it's like, oh, we're doing this for complete nostalgia. No, there's a reason behind that, and it was to build up to this big moment. 18 movies they created and led up to just this one of 2-part movies that, oh my God, did absolutely just phenomenal. Yeah, so I did a little bit of a poll on Twitter asking people, you know, if you had to pick one Infinity Stone, which one would you choose? More people definitely chose the Time Stone, which was not too much of a surprise. The second one was Power. Third one was Reality. Not very many people chose the other, because Twitter only allowed me to do 4 choices, so I had, you know, Time, Reality, Power, and Other, whichever one that you want. So let me ask you this: if you had if you could choose one Infinity Stone, which one would you personally choose?
That's interesting too. I almost do feel like Time is the stone to probably have, because you can always continuously change everything. And if that doesn't throw out a spoiler there, I don't know what does. All these Infinity Stones are still alive, y'all. So, and also, I mean, people know, if you watch Infinity, or if you know Infinity Wars, you can kind of know, like, I don't know exactly what the MCU is going to do, because it's not exact, you know, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. Everybody might be pissed off. Might be a Twilight version.
Oh boy, I will probably need to bleach my eyes if they go into a Twilight direction. I refuse to go down that path again.
Talking about the Twilight movie at the end of the Twilight movie.
Don't remind me. That's one of those parts of my past I'd like to forget.
You do know it?
What
I'm talking about?
I do know. Like I said, I want to forget it, but yes, I do.
So when they all fight and everybody dies, and then all of a sudden you realize it's just a dream.
Oh God, that.
So you didn't know, right? I'm like, I'm trying to, like, see if you know, but I can't tell if you know. So.
Like I said, I'm trying to forget it. Like I said, Twilight was not one of my favorite things to watch. I only watched it because...
But that was one of the biggest FU moments in cinematic history. Like, people don't like when that happens. So I'm intrigued to know if Marvel's going to do a big FU moment to where this first movie doesn't even matter.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that a little bit later, because that'll bring us to, like, the ending. And there's actually an interview that I want to actually bring up that the writers did that really brought up some very interesting points, but also kind of leaves you kind of scratching your head, like, well, then why did you do this? But we'll get into that in a minute. Honest to God, the guy who played Thanos, I think Josh Brolin, absolutely. Oh, thank you. Absolutely fantastic, and he did his job so well that this was legitimately one of those characters in a movie that you know how there's those villains that you kind of slightly hate, but at the same time you're just like, oh yeah, this is kind of awesome. This is one of those first villains that I watched, and I was thinking to myself, I really cannot find any redeeming qualities for you, dude. Literally, so many things that he did during this movie, I was like, I hate this person. I hate him. I really hate him. Not like a genuine, like, I want him dead kind of hate, but like the hate of like, I want bad things to happen to you because of the fact of what you did. And one of the things that he did was, in order to get the Soul Stone, it was, as Red Skull said, a soul for a soul. And he had to sacrifice somebody that he loved. And they did a really interesting job of putting the story of Gamora and Thanos in there, basically talking about how somehow he definitely preferred Gamora over Nebula. I don't know if they really explained the reason why, but somehow I think he just respects her tenacity, her will to fight, her just strength. And then when it got to the point where he throws her off the ledge and we get that slow motion deal, and next thing you know, we see Gamora dead. Oh God, no. That's one of those things you want to take over for a minute? Because, that's
Sure.
that's still very sore.
I do have to agree. That was actually probably the saddest moment for me in the whole film. Like, I was like, wow, like, they were really able to build on that. I did kind of see it coming, especially like, I think everybody kind of saw it coming once if he was bringing her somewhere to get something like this. Like, I don't think she's coming back. But the cute thing is, like, how much Thanos, like, said he loved her and stuff, and you're like, okay, I guess I'll believe this. I didn't. The one problem is I never got to, like I said, I complained a little bit about Gamora, like, if she's going to be this end-all, be-all person, like, I kind of wanted to see some cool things from her in this movie, and I didn't see anything really cool from her. He called her the most powerful woman in the galaxy. I call bullshit. I don't think she didn't seem more powerful than the other sister, like the girl with the horn, the sister, or the other daughter of Thanos that was there. Like, those were the children of Thanos, the four that went to Earth to fight. Like, she didn't seem better than that girl. Like, to me, I saw that girl was killing Black Widow and T'Challa's, guard. Like, kicking both of their asses. Like, I was like, I don't think Gamora could do that. She couldn't hardly even beat up Nebula. And Nebula sucks, because we always see her suck. Like, she always sucks. She really does. She was really annoying. I was like, why are you even here? But yeah, so I wish that I believed he loved her a little more, but at least at the moment of where he turns around and she realizes, like, because I think the one thing that they sold me at is she didn't believe that he would ever hurt her. She went with him pretty willingly. She went through everything. He never really hurt her. He always hurt everybody else. He never hurt her. So that moment when he turns around and he grabs her wrist and she was just a child again, basically a child, and that was just so sad. Like, that relationship of a father just taking advantage of someone who's so weak, like a child, and just killing her. Like, she believed that he would protect her. Regardless of how mean and bad he is, he always protected her, always fended for her. And so the moment of her realization that he loves her, but she's not as important as this mission, was very, very sad. Again, I wish I felt more of the love, like how and why he loved her. I still don't see that, but I did see the fact that she trusted him to protect her, and he failed.
Right, yeah. Another thing I think that really made me think, like, oh, I hate this guy so much, was there's a line in, what was it? I think it was The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, where basically, I think it was like the brother of the main lead lady. I forgot. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. Jonathan. There we go. He has this line during that movie where he basically just says, "I hate mummies. They never play fair." There was one of those moments where that was kind of echoing, but it's just like, I hate supervillains. They never play fair, and that was when Thanos did the whole time deal. It's like, oh, well, we saw the destruction of the Infinity Stone. Scarlet Witch did it. It had to be hard for her, but she did it. And then, of course, Thanos just pushes her over, and then we just see him do the whole reverse time deal. And I'm like, oh, come on. It was hard for her already. Why do you got to put her through it again?
Yeah.
And then, of course, yeah, we get the more graphic, I would definitely say graphic death of Vision, where he basically just grabs his stone and just breaks his head open to pull the stone out. And then we just see him turn completely just gray and black, and I'm just like, oh god, that's even worse now that I see that. I prefer the combustion. At least I didn't see him, like anything like too gruesome. But then I see that, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a little more dark for me to deal with. But I mean, I understand, why he did it, because it's like, I got the advantage. I could turn back time. Oh, here's my stone. I'm good.
Yeah, you respected what she did too. See, when you're telling me all this, like, about how much you hate Thanos, that's interesting for me, because I didn't hear a lot of that. And I didn't hate Thanos. This is a Marvel villain that they really tried hard to humanize and show you, like, this is his perspective, and this is his goal he's trying to achieve. Here's the heroes, their perspective, and this is their goal. And to me, that's kind of what the terminology of good and evil never really fulfills, is that it's not technically good versus evil, it's one opinion versus the other. So no one's saying that one is right and one is wrong, because everybody has their opinions. But there are two forces that are going in different directions or conflicting. And that, I think, is what they portrayed. There were so many freaking underarching, like, themes that I was just eating up. I was like, this is great, oh my gosh. And that's why a lot of people were like, this is awful, because they can't handle it. But the fact that Thanos is fighting to save the universe. The Avengers are fighting to save the universe. His way is to murder half the population. Their way is to try to kill Thanos. They both have the same goal. It's just different. So, like, for me, it's like, I'm not saying that mass genocide is great, but it's just something you can think about, and you're like, wow, like, that's what he's fighting for so hard, because he saw his planet go to hell, and he knows why, and how, like, his little sit down and saying, like, our resources are finite, everything is finite, life has to be finite. And he's like, and it's not right now, so I have to be the person to burden myself with this. Like, I'm the only one who can do it. And I think he's right. I think he's right. He's the only one. I don't think anyone else can hold all those Infinity Stones like how he did. And then, two, it's like, nobody else wants to be that bad of a good guy. like, I am going to save you by also killing, half of you. Good? We good? No? But yeah, so like for me, I didn't hate him at all. I was just like, holy cow. Like, this is what this guy believes. And like how he fought, he was, like, he never did anything dishonorable until he killed Gamora. That was when something broke in him, but that is the whole point of the Soul Stone. The Soul Stone is like, you can't have this anymore. You can't have a soul to have this. You're basically going to be an empty shell. And that's where he lost himself. And that's honestly, that's when I saw it. I was like, damn. Like, that was the first time that I was like, that's not cool. That's really not cool. But when he was fighting Thor, when he was fighting, like, all them, when he fought Hulk, he didn't play unfair. He was like, okay, I'll take you. It's my turn. Sure. And, like, even his, like, the children of Thanos, they were like, no, let him have his time. Like, let him have his fun. Don't help him. He doesn't need help. I don't know. I enjoyed it. He's a great villain, but it's just annoying if he does what he does in the comic book.
Well, maybe now that, you put that into perspective, maybe it's more, his actions are the things I hate more than him as the person. But, his thought process of, eliminating half the galaxy and then just basically starting anew, I don't know if I fully agree with that, but, maybe there's a different motive behind it. Who knows at this point?
No, that was his exact motive. He wants to eliminate half so that the half that's still there gets the most out of what they have. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that was what he was thinking. So it's not like he's evil. This is his opinions. I think that's what this movie was trying to portray to people. And people are so stuck on this good versus evil stuff that doesn't exist in real life. So obviously some people are like, no, some people are evil. Terrorism is evil. This is evil. I don't know if they feel the same way. So I don't know if you can label it as evil. Like, they feel they're righteous. They feel like they're right. It's one opinion versus another opinion. And I think that's one thing that people get from comics and fiction of this sense is a new way of understanding your reality by living it through a fantasy, so it's not as hard. And this movie just did that so brilliantly that I needed to talk about it.
Say, fair enough. One thing that you mentioned, I think last week, that you were kind of concerned about was how they would transition a lot of the Avengers into, like, the whole space sequences and with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Did they meet were they what you were expecting, or did they do better? Did they do worse? In your honest opinion, did they do their job of transitioning them properly?
I think it was awesome. Yeah. We all knew that probably the first Avenger attached character to talk and meet with the Guardians of the Galaxy was going to be Thor. I mean, Thor was already in space. I loved the fact, I didn't necessarily understand it, but I loved the fact that, I think his name is Heimdall, Idris Elba's character, warped the Hulk back to Earth before he died. I thought that was a great way to connect everybody, but I also didn't necessarily get it. I was like, wait, you're supposed to be, like, super cool with Thor. Why didn't you warp Thor back? But I get it. I don't know. I'm not gonna fight it. I'm glad it happened. And so the Guardians of the Galaxy going to that distress call, beautiful. Loved it. Because that's how they entered the movie, is the Asgardian ship. We don't have soldiers, which is amazing. Like, that was just an awful moment. Like, I was so sad. But you see, like, obviously we go back to Earth. And then after all that Earth stuff, which we also see Thanos' children, or children of Thanos, try to go away with their spaceship with stowaways, which is a great way to get some of the Avengers who needed to be gone Like, I do believe that Iron Man needed to leave Earth. Like, you know, he had to go out, and having Doctor Strange, Iron Man, and Spider-Man, those big three right there that are pretty, like, Iron Man can kind of pull things out of his butt, like, all the time. Doctor Strange obviously can, too. He's a magician. And then Spider-Man, just that wild card of what he's like, whoa, I did something crazy, guys. I thought that was great transition, that they're out. And so the focus is more on Captain America's team and those people on Earth. While they transitioned perfectly to the Rubber Band Man song, the Guardians of the Galaxy going to go help out, and finding Thor hilarious. Like, come on, like, you can't. Chris Pratt in this movie was so funny, just how insecure he was about himself when, like, Thor was on the ship. It's just great, and that is the humor right there that we're talking about. Like, Thor didn't do anything. He's literally laying there, and we're all, like, cracking up because the Guardians of the Galaxy don't know what to do with, like, they're just the worst. Like, they're so awkward. They're the awkward misfits that nobody wants to work with, and that's why they work with each other. So whenever they get together and just have time to talk, you're like, oh my gosh, stop talking. Oh, his muscle is made out of steel. I mean, stop massaging his muscles. It's killing me. And then they're all telling him that he's fat. Like, that was so funny. Like, he's like, wow, this is a wake-up call for me. This is a wake-up call. Like, it was great. I also really enjoyed, I think it was great that how they separated them, too. Because I wasn't for sure if they were going to separate the Guardians of the Galaxy. But giving those two to Thor, you know, the animated characters that are more fun. Like, Groot was funny. Groot was so cute. I'm glad.
But he was not cute. He was a spoiled little brat that was just playing Space Invaders.
That was cuteness. Yeah, he was like, I am Groot.
Whoa, hey!
Yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that on our podcast.
You had to grow some acorns to say that, jeez.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, I just said a line. But no, he figured it out. He was like, oh my gosh, this is intense. Like, he turned from, I'm a teenage brat, to, this is real. Like, I gotta step up again. And I think it was great. Like when you see him, like, go in to grab the Stormbreaker, the axe, and then he's just like, and cuts his own arm off. I'm like, Groot! Yes! And also that was when, you know, Thor was getting his awesomeness back. Now that he didn't really ever lose it, though. Like, in this movie, I feel like the beginning was a little rough. Like, wait. He just kicked so much ass, and now he's just, like, getting his ass kicked. But then when you see the situation and all the death, you're like, okay, it's probably because he's trying to protect everyone, and there's no way that he can use his power on that ship. But no, your question about the space, I think it was beautiful. It was perfect. It's everything I wanted.
Yeah, I thought they transitioned everything very well. I couldn't ask for anything more. I mean, you took...
Did you like the space Spidey suit? How cool is that?
Oh my gosh, that was absolutely amazing. And I want to say also one other thing that Spider-Man definitely did contribute to this was all the pop culture references. Like, he talked about Alien, the scenes where he was basically breaking Peter Quill's heart by saying, like, oh, is Footloose still the greatest movie of all time? It was never the greatest movie ever, man. It's like, it's just like, oh, dude, why must you do this to him? Come on, don't break this guy's heart.
I'm from Missouri.
Oh my god.
That, to me, being actually from Missouri, I was like, that's freaking hilarious. I agree.
You were probably booing Tony Stark when he said, like, that's on Earth, you dipshit.
No, I was not booing. I was like, that's freaking funny that he didn't, like, that. Yeah, Missouri doesn't feel like it's on Earth sometimes. Like, what are they doing over there?
Oh my gosh.
Get back in that trailer.
So let's transition into something that everybody's talking about, and that is indeed how it ended. We get to the big battle sequence where everybody's fighting each other. I want to also say that the battle sequences, the way they transition from one to another, I compare that to Star Wars Return of the Jedi. It was the right amount of time on each battle. They gave a lot of detail, but not too much. They really found a way to balance everything out, and then by the end, they still managed to do it, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. Now, of course, we reached the point where Thanos has all the stones, and we think that, this is going to be the end. He does the snap of his fingers, and that's where things really start getting meta. Because a lot of the Avengers and a lot of people started disintegrating.
Yeah.
So let's go through the list of people that we lost during this movie. Started off with Loki. He got choked out by Thanos. We lost Gamora, as we mentioned before. Vision, as we mentioned before. First one to go, Winter Soldier, Bucky. He's gone. Scarlet Witch would soon follow. Black Panther would be gone. Mantis, Drax, Doctor Strange, Groot, Falcon, Star-Lord. And, oh god, this was the one that really got me, and this is where it got really strange for me, because since I was wearing my Deadpool costume that Tuesday, I had I had a little Spider-Man backpack with me, and literally while that was happening, where he slowly was starting to deteriorate, all I was doing was I was just hugging onto my backpack, like, not my favorite superhero, come on, not again. And literally, he's gone, just heart-wrenching. And this is one of those things that sent a lot of people into an uproar. A lot of people were either unhappy about it, they were confused about it. It continued on with the post-credit scene where we saw one of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., a lot of other people, as well as Nick Fury, disappear. And don't worry, we're going to get to talking about the final thing that we get from that movie. But everything that happened during that... yes, I know. I'm going to mention that in just a minute. But a lot of people were definitely very emotionally wrecked after that. And there's a lot of people that think, like, oh, don't worry, they're going to come back, they're going to be back. We're not exactly sure about that, because this is what I want to bring up. Comicbook.com did an interview with the two writers. I think it was Christopher... I'm trying to remember their names. I think it was Christopher Marcus and I think it was Stephen McFeely, I think were their names. And this is basically what they said. So, to quote them, this is starting off with Marcus, where he says, Avengers 4 doesn't do what you think it does. It is a different movie than you think it is. Also, the deaths are real. I just want to tell you it's real, and the sooner you accept that, the sooner you will be able to move on to the next stage of grief. McFeely would then chime in by saying, put it this way, I think Infinity War is a fairly mature movie for a blockbuster. It's got a lot of fun in it, obviously, but boy, it gets very mature. The second one is also mature. We're going to own these choices and hopefully surprise and delight you and get you invested. It's by the same studio, the same filmmaking team. They were written at the same time, shot at the same time. They're clearly connected. But they are definitely two different movies, one of which is dependent on what happened previous. End quote. So, with all of that being said, this is where I'm either thinking that they are doing like a massive troll here, or they are really owning up to their decision here. Because a few weeks ago, we recently talked about a lot of the movies that were going to be coming out. That being, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Spider-Man Homecoming 2, a lot of other movies that were coming out. It's one of those things where I'm reading this, and I'm thinking, I don't fully believe that they are just going to kill off all of these characters. There's some that I believe that are definitely done. There's some that I definitely look at and think like, well, I don't think that they're going to come back. I don't think they're going to come back. But there are some that they've already announced that. Why would you make that announcement and then say that quote? Is what I'm saying, is that why would you say, like, okay, we got these movies lined up, and then next thing you know, they're saying, like, well, this person's basically dead. So I half believe it, but I also believe it's also a little bit of BS. But that's my opinion. Your thoughts?
Well, I did kind of tell you, like, I try not to say everything, but I did kind of say.
Is this one of those I told you so moments?
No. This is what I was trying to tell you when I was talking about the Twilight movie. The end of part 2 of the Twilight movie was a psychic had a vision that everyone was going to die if this battle happened. And so she showed the vision to the bad guy, and then she's like, so this is how it ends. So I'm glad you're dead, everybody's dead, everybody's dead. Just letting you know, everybody dies because you've made this decision. And so guess what? He decided, okay, never mind, I don't want to fight anymore. And then the fight never happened. But we got to see the vision. And we all we were like, no, the characters that I loved are dead, no! And then it goes, oh, none of this was real. Oh. Super glad my emotions were just taken on a roller coaster ride. But thank you for that. And that's called a big F you moment. A big F you moment in anything that is fantasy, when you're like, we could do this, we want to show you this because this is a really cool fight scene. It was, the best fight scene in the whole series. And then they are like, but it didn't happen. Wink, wink, huh? And you're like, what? And so I think what I would get from what the writers just said in your interview is I would be like, okay, so it really did happen. The reality did happen. So that means it's not a vision. That's what I would take from that. Like, it's not something that someone just saw. So the Scarlet Witch or Jean Grey or one of the psychics or, Professor X from X-Men, because, like, Disney's buying them and stuff like that. But, this is a real thing. This is reality. This is happening. The deaths were real. They really happened. That doesn't mean I can't take this green time stone and go, yeah, that wasn't what I wanted.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm not saying anything else that I don't want to give, like, super duper spoilers, but I think a lot of people understand if they committed to the comic book series that, sometimes you can use the Infinity Stones again. Oh, wait, you can do that all the time. Unless you destroy them. But I didn't see him destroy anything. I saw the gauntlet looked pretty messed up, but don't worry. They were all there. They were all fine. So I think that if anyone feels very depressed or like, and hears that interview and like, wait, I don't understand if they're coming back, I would just tell them, well, the time stone is still alive. So I would... And obviously, like, I think some people need to take the cues the way they got. Like, the cues were there. Like, Doctor Strange, like, people are like, why would he just give up the stone? That is the stupidest thing. Like, he just said beforehand he would never do that. I'm like, well, he has a plan. Everybody has to die for this plan to work. So, we gotta first let everybody die. I know the egotistical Doctor Strange wouldn't let himself die if he wasn't thinking he's going to come back. That's Doctor Strange's character. He wouldn't do that. And that's why he's like, Tony needs to live. Tony needs to be alive right now for this to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no. That's what I would just tell you about that interview, is I think they are doing the comic book runaround, which is what they should do. I don't want them to give away anything. I want them to feel good about the writing. I think they also said in that interview, it sounded like they might not do what the exact comic book did, which that is kind of what I was thinking too. Because, again, you reverse time and everything's Gucci. Everything's good. Don't worry about it. I don't know if everything's going to be Gucci after they reverse time. Or maybe they have to make some sacrifices. I do believe, I think there's going to be some deaths. I think some people are going to die. Like, we kind of talked about this before, like, their contracts are up. Like, some of these movie stars don't want to do this anymore. They're tired of it. I'm almost for sure, I was talking yesterday, I could be wrong, but I think Thor re-signed now. Is that Chris Hemsworth?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he re-signed after Thor Ragnarok because, like, his character wasn't a little dipshit anymore. Like, he was cool again. Okay, I actually like this character. If this is where you're going with this character, I will hang on. I will be with it. But I'm almost for sure Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, they're kind of like done. They're like, we've been doing this for what? Iron Man probably has been doing this for like 10, 15 years. That's a long time to commit to a role that you have to continuously look like a superhero. Like, that's a long time. So that's what I would just say about it. But I also wanted to talk to you about the Hulk too. Once you're done with your thing.
No, I was just gonna say that, you know, when you put it like that, it definitely does kind of give me a little bit of hope, and I guess, you know, it is kind of one of those things where it is smart on them to not basically reveal what's going to happen with Part 2. Obviously, you know, one of the things that's going to happen previous to Part 2 is what happened at the end of this movie, and that being that we see Nick Fury get on his pager, then he disappears, and we just see this thing go setting, ... And we see this little logo on there, and automatically we think, "Hey, it's Wonder Woman!" Wait, what? We're not getting that crossover. We're not getting Gal Gadot in the Marvel Universe. No. Oh, Captain Marvel. Oh, okay. I'm still excited. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Nothing against Captain Marvel. It's just I got a little excited there. I thought Gal Gadot got smart and she came over to Marvel. I'm sorry. So. Yeah, we're getting Captain Marvel. That was one of those moments where I looked at that and I'm thinking to myself, that looks very familiar. Why? No way. And then it was basically revealed, yep, that's Captain Marvel's logo. It's like, okay then, this is going to be amazing. And what's actually really crazy is that I did post this on our Facebook fan page if you want to check it out, facebook.com/changing up the game. Is that they do have the promotional poster for Captain Marvel's date release. And it seems like it's going to be happening in March, if I'm not mistaken. It's either March or April, I believe. I'm going to have to look it up again. But before we get too in on that, because it definitely is going to go on to a bit of a rant. Trust me, I already told my co-host that it's going to happen. You mentioned something about the Hulk. What was it that you wanted to mention about that? I think I know what you're going to talk about, but I'm kind of curious what...
Yeah, obviously. Like, he says no. He doesn't want to come out. The whole movie, he gets his ass kicked, and then he's saying no. So I just thought that's definitely a point that we needed to at least bring up, because the Hulk is one of those characters, especially in the Avengers, that is just almost unbeatable. You don't know... You never know how he gets hurt or injured, because you hit him, the more you hit him, the more he gets, like, amped to kill. So it was interesting to me. I loved that they started with him just getting his ass handed to him, because that kind of set the bar for who Thanos was and what he could really do. But then he goes back to Earth and he doesn't want to come out anymore. And I think it was very intriguing. I mean, obviously, I think that the Hulk knows something that Bruce Banner does not. And I mean, the Hulk has been out there in the universe without Bruce Banner's knowledge for a while. Like, he was there on what do you call it, that place with Jeff Goldblum and all that. Like, he was there for a long time. Yeah, I forget what it's called, but in Thor Ragnarok, like, they basically had Planet Hulk. So Hulk knows things that Bruce Banner doesn't know. So the fact that he doesn't want to show himself, he doesn't want to come out, I think is just another part of that plan that Doctor Strange has. Like, he's like, not like the Hulk knows, not yet. And I just think it was interesting. I think it needs to be talked about because Hulk is the most powerful Avenger. Even though Thor would like to say it was him. Like, well, he's like, I'm pretty sure that's me. Like, no. We could argue this, but he's known as, no, he is known as the most powerful Avenger. And so to not have him was a good storyline that they could tell because, it fills some gaps. Like, oh, they can get beat pretty good because the Hulk isn't even there. So.
Yeah, I got you. Actually, that does make a very interesting point, and I am very interested to see how well it's going to, play into Infinity War Part 2. Well, I don't know if they're calling it Infinity War Part 2. I think from what rumors are stating that it's going to be Avengers Endgame, which would work because it does tie into what Doctor Strange said at like one of his last movies. Is like, this is the Endgame, like you said, yeah. Okay, so I did look it up. It's actually she's going to be having her movie in March. Thank God. I honestly thought that it was one of those moments where she's going to have her movie in April, and then a week later, it's the second part to Infinity War. I'm like, are you sure that's a good idea? Because that seems like suicide right there.
It doesn't give us a lot of time anyway. Like, March doesn't give people a lot of time to go see it. Because some people don't even go see the movies. They wait till they come out. That's not going to be out. So it's kind of smart. Makes people go to the theater, spend more money. Also, fan sucky.
Yeah, very true.
I'll go. I know we'll go.
Oh gosh, yeah. That's not that's not an issue at all. So it's rant time because there's a lot of people that have had a lot of questions about this movie at the end, and that's one of the reasons why they're complaining. Also, one of the biggest complaints, oh man, we gotta wait a whole year just to see this movie. Are you kidding me? We have waited for almost 18 movies to get this movie, and you're worried about waiting one full year just to see the second part of this movie? Do you not realize how gracious that is of Marvel to do that? They could have made it for like 2 years, and we would have more reason to complain. If you look back at a lot of movies, there have been a lot of them where there's been like a 3-year span. Star Wars happened in like 1977. Then 3 years later, here comes The Empire Strikes Back. 3 years later after that, it was Return of the Jedi. They had 3 years to wait for these movies to come out. So 3 years, you're waiting after Empire, like, oh man, what's going to happen? When are we going to get this? When are we going to get this? And you guys can't wait 1 year just to really? It's literally one of those things where I'm like, you seriously are that spoiled to want it now. I can wait a year because I'm still in a little bit of a mourning phase right now. So give me about like 10 more months and then I'll start thinking, okay, I want part 2 to begin now. Because there's still a lot more coming up this year that can maybe take my mind off of it, but at the same time it's like, I still want to know these questions. I want them to be answered. But yeah, this was one of those things and one of those complaints where I'm like, seriously? This is just going to cause me to rant and rave and just think you guys are really pushing a fine line here of being just spoiled and being idiots. I'm sorry. This is one of those times where I'm going to be brutally honest. If you can't wait a full year, and think about this, I'm a Star Wars fan. Force Awakens happened. I had to wait 2 more years to get The Last Jedi. And some people were disappointed at it. I thought it was amazing. I was thinking, hey, it was worth the 2-year wait. It's fine. They threw Rogue One in the middle of it. Okay, this kind of settles my, Star Wars deal for a little bit, but I still want to see The Last Jedi. If I can wait 2 years between Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, you guys can wait a full year before Part 2 comes out, whether it's, Avengers Endgame or Avengers Oblivion or Avengers Annihilation, whatever title they decide to throw it in there. Although I think Annihilation might be taken, for all I know. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Like I said, it was just one of those things, just a mini rant. We're good. So, yeah, honestly, next year's shaping up to be very interesting. Like we said, March will feature Captain Marvel, and then about 2 months later, we have the second part of Avengers. So, this is going to be very interesting. So, final thoughts for Infinity War. final questions, final comments?
Did we cover everything I was super stoked about? I think so. I got to say that Thor and Wanda were freaking amazing. I've been waiting for that. Talked about Thanos being humanized. Talked about the Hulk. That was a big deal to me, like to talk about, because it was very intriguing that he was not coming out. Yeah, talked about the deaths and if they're going to come back or not. I think the next thing to really, look out for is Ant-Man and Wasp. Like, that's coming out. It's going to definitely give us some insight. I'm not for sure if both of them are going to make it into the end game. Maybe one of them won't. Somebody probably will disappear, I'm guessing. It should start. I'm guessing that the movie is going to start at their scene where kind of before the attacks even happen, like what they're doing, because he took another job, to kind of stay low, lay low. That's what they said about him. And maybe Hawkeye will be in that film too, so we'll get to see where Hawkeye and Ant-Man are in this time. Because I know a lot of people were like, well, I wanted Hawkeye, I love Hawkeye, where's Hawkeye? Like, I'm guessing that they're going to be pulled in to the part 2 version. Like I told you, I didn't think Ant-Man was going to be in this movie.
Right.
Because I was like, if they do, that's going to be weird. I'm not going to like it. So I'm glad he wasn't there. I'm excited to watch, because I know they have to end with the people disappearing. Half the population got zapped away. So that's why I'm kind of thinking, one of them, either Ant-Man or Wasp, probably disappeared. I don't know who. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think people should look out for that. Probably go see it to answer some of your questions.
Yeah. Well, one thing that somebody actually brought up to me this morning, we were talking about Infinity War, and one thing that he mentioned to me was that, if I really noticed carefully, is that all the people who have disappeared were people that were added on to the Avengers. Right now, it's the original Avengers. It's indeed, Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, yada yada. So this is one of those things where Thor, like we said. So this Ant-Man and the Wasp could be one of those situations where maybe even both of them get, taken out, and all we see is Hawkeye, and he realizes something's wrong, and that's maybe how they end it. It would be kind of a weird way to end that movie, but at the same time, it would kind of tie into Infinity War as well, to where he realizes, something's up, something's not right. And he was an original Avenger, so it makes sort of sense, in a way. But, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, it's probably going to be about a year before we get most of these answered. It might happen in June. We don't know.
Yeah. Ant-Man comes out in June, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll get some answers in June, for sure.
Right. All right, so before we close this episode, there was one thing that we definitely wanted to talk about, and I got a chance to talk about this a couple weeks ago, but it's more fun talking about it with somebody else, especially as intellectual as my co-host. And that is indeed the recent Venom trailer that got released. Have you gotten a chance to see it yet?
Oh, yeah.
What were your thoughts on the costume of the final product, the last 10 seconds where you finally get to see Venom and what he looks like?
I think he looks great. I didn't notice the symbol, so if the symbol is different, I know some people were saying it's not a spider or something. I don't know if the symbol's different. I think it looks really cool, though. I just know from watching different videos and hearing complaints, the biggest complaint is there's no Spider-Man there, and which is totally understandable. Like, most people who know Venom know the symbiote was almost obsessed with Spider-Man and what Spider-Man could do, and that's why the symbiote, once Spider-Man was able to get it off, it was like, I still want to be like Spider-Man. I want to be better than Spider-Man. And so, like, he had abilities of Spider-Man. I didn't see any abilities of Spider-Man in the trailer. So, what I like to do and it depends on your, I'm not as huge of a nerd as other people are, I think. And when I say nerd, I say, like, I think a lot of times if you're such a huge fan, sometimes you don't like people messing with your stuff. I enjoy when somebody takes the time to make a $1 billion movie. I'm saying billion because it's like, $400,000 million put in to make a movie of your fandom. Like, I appreciate that. I will want to go watch it, and I will give it the benefit of the doubt. If they want to make a Venom movie because Venom's a badass, awesome character, and they don't have the rights to Spider-Man right now, and they're still going to put out a movie and just give you a different version of what Venom could be, which he has been sometimes. He's been his own anti-hero. He has his own comic books. So, like, I would just accept that and be like, this is cool. I want to see where they go with this before, like, being like, no, never going to see this because Spider-Man's not in it. Like, shut up, man. Let Venom have his time. Like, Venom is a cool character. Eddie Brock is very interesting. He's kind of your average Joe type of person who's, like, he doesn't really have that righteousness about him that all the other heroes, he's kind of like, he's an anti-hero. He's like, well, but this is easier, so I'm just going to kill you instead of, like, deal with you. How some of, like Superman and, like, Spider-Man all have that moral compass they try to follow, and he's more like, like, that's interesting. Exactly. Like, he's like, it doesn't have to be this way because it's easier this way, so we're going to kill you. I'll murder all of you, and then we'll find who did it. And everyone's like, oh my god, you're crazy. Kind of. But yeah, I think it looks like a fun, interesting movie. And if the biggest complaint is there's no Spidey in it, well, accept it. Accept the reality of this movie is going to go a different direction. And if you want to see it, cool. If you don't want to see it because Spider-Man's on him, don't frickin' see it.
Hey, it makes sense to me, and you took the words right out of my mouth. Actually, I think you did a shorter version of what I basically said a few weeks ago, so... So glad to know we're on the same page when it comes to this. Yeah, I do agree that I'm open to different ideas of how they do Venom. I mean, they did that with animated series for, like, years, of how Venom came to be, and how Venom did this, and how Venom looked like this. I'm willing to do that. And right now, anything that is better than the freaking Topher Grace Spider-Man 3 version is a godsend right now. So if some of you are basically going to go back to saying, like, oh, I prefer the Topher Grace version better, you are dead to me. I am not even kidding. Because if you somehow think that was the best Venom, then you are insane. And I will be the one that puts you in a straitjacket and then sends you off. Because that was... that I do not want to remember. It's in the same realm as the whole Twilight thing, so... So, with that being said, I think that we can wrap up this edition, this Avengers Infinity War plus bonus edition of the Game Changer. You know where to find us on Twitter. You know how to look us up on Facebook. So, with that being said, let's go into some quick, cheap plugs before we head out. VicTori Belle, do you have any big events that fans can look forward to seeing? Do you have any upcoming projects? What's going on with you?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to be releasing probably later this week, which today is Thursday, so most likely next week. I'm going to be introducing everybody to a new comedy for acting. It's really cool. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but our first episode is going to be coming out at the beginning of May, which is happening right now. We're finishing the edits. It's looking great. I'm excited. Everybody involved is very excited. Other than that, I'm traveling a lot this month, so that means I don't get a lot of creativity time. I'm doing promotional events for other things, and then also, going to Dublin. What? But the end of the month, though, if you want to come out and enjoy some one-on-one time of modeling, figure modeling, Chicago Costume on Fullerton in downtown Chicago is having myself and Mr. Rob Fury come out as Deadpool and Domino, and we're doing some drink and draw. Everybody's going to have some booze. We're going to have some modeling poses and just have a very Deadpool night to celebrate, the film. And, yeah, just have a fun, crazy, wacky night at Chicago Costume. So if anybody wants to come out to that, that is going to be on May 31st, which is a Thursday. And it's going to be at 8, I believe. I believe it starts at 8, 8 to 10. So after that, maybe we'll all go out drinking as Deadpool and Dominic.
Well, first of all, it's good to know that I don't have any competition when it comes to the Deadpool dressing up community. Thank you, Rob, very much. And also, you did talk about Deadpool. It is coming out in a couple of weeks. Maybe we're going to have to do something like this again, but with Deadpool 2, who knows, guys? Who knows? It all depends on our schedules. But with that being said, we're going to end this episode. I have been Nate the Effing Great. She has indeed been VicTori Belle. Go check her out. She does amazing work. She does amazing costuming. Just great job. I actually did make a post earlier how I think it was a year ago. I was basically trying to help you reach that goal of 2,000 likes, and she has definitely grown since then, guys. Go check out her stuff. Go check out her photos. Go check out her work. Absolutely very talented. Just enjoy every single bit of creativeness that she just, I'm trying to think of the right word, just, brings out to everybody. Yes. I'm trying to not get the wrong word out there because that would just screw everything up. But anyway, so with that being said, this has been the Avengers episode. We will talk to you guys next week. Have a good one. If you haven't gone and seen it, the Infinity War, go do it. And for the other 8% that thinks that Infinity War sucked, well, your opinion matters, but it just does not to me. So have a good one, guys, and we will talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.